Hello citizen, and welcome to Arstotzka. I hope you brought your documents, because otherwise you're not crossing that border. And so help me God, if you come up with some ridiculous excuses, like what's a passport, or try to fool me with clever forgeries, I will detain you immediately. What? You're trying to bribe me? Well, that changes everything. Just give me the money, and you're free to go. Look, we're all people, and I have a family to feed. Just recently, my sister was arrested, probably because we live in a dystopia, so I had to adopt her young daughter. You know what they say, a man provides for his family, and he does it, even if that means letting drug dealers and smugglers cross the border. I can't possibly let my children die without medicine and food. Or can I? Glory to Arstotzka, my fellow inspectors. Today, we'll talk about Papers, Please, one of the best border control simulators, set in a dystopian communist country named Arstotzka. We've got repressions, denunciations, and widespread poverty for our gracious people. And if that's not enough, the Arstotzkan regime can offer you a free tour to the nearest gulag. You play as immigration inspector at Grestin border checkpoint, using only the documents provided by travelers and the Ministry of Admission's primitive inspect, search and fingerprint systems. You must decide who can enter Arstotzka and who will be turned away or arrested. But you cannot do this as you please. Remember, the Ministry of Admission is always watching you. That's why each time you make a mistake and allow the wrong person to cross the border of our beautiful country, you will immediately lose your social credit score and receive a citation explaining which part of the protocol was violated. Next time, try paying more attention when reviewing documents. After all, it's in your best interest to double-check everything before putting that stamp on a passport. Otherwise, most of your already limited funds will be spent on fines for poor performance. But we aren't monsters, unlike our Kolechian neighbors. Everyone has the right to make mistakes, even our underpaid workers. So, you will have 2 warnings, after which each subsequent mistake will cost you 5 credits. And you better have money to pay your fines, because otherwise it's game over. Now, let's do a quick rundown of your working place. As immigration inspector, you will be spending most of the time in this small booth. Inside you have 3 items: the rulebook, audio transcript, and bulletin. Like any other documents, you can arrange them on a desk to keep it organized for maximum efficiency, or do none of this and turn your working space into a total mess. The rulebook contains immigration protocol, regional map, and list of valid seals. It's your best friend in this game, and you will be using it almost all the time to highlight discrepancies. Sometimes entrants may simply lie to you about the reason and duration of visit, and if you don't pay attention to this, you could easily get a citation. Luckily, the audio transcript is an excellent tool that records your conversations, making it easy to call people out on their bullshit. And finally, the official bulletin issued by the Ministry of Admission should be the first thing you check every morning, because it's constantly updated with new regulations and procedures, notes from management, and starting from the 14th day, it will also include a list of wanted criminals. The job itself is very simple. You need to check documents for conflicting information. Use in inspection mode, highlight discrepancies, interrogate suspicious people, and if they refuse to cooperate, straight up detain them. Inspect mode allows you to compare entrance documents with the current date and pretty much anything relevant. Don't waste your time on something like that. Its real purpose is to highlight discrepancies and enforce protocol when something is wrong with the entrant. In the late game, you must specify the exact reason why they can't enter Arstotzka. Otherwise, you will just receive another citation. The search button can be activated during interrogation when you notice a mismatch in a person's gender or weight. It's the only way to catch smugglers and drug dealers, so you won't use it very often. What you will use very often is the fingerprint system, which comes into play whenever a person's name, surname, or photo doesn't match their documents. Of course, they will tell you that it was recently changed or that the years have been cruel, but you shouldn't take their word for it. In fact, the only people you can trust are engineers, because they always have the right documents, and Georgi Kostava. Always let him in. Who cares that he's a drug dealer and smuggler when he's the funniest character in the entire game? A really cool dude and just a chill guy who at the end of the game casually showed up and gave me 40 credits. Of course, there are other notable characters like like Kalinsk and Sergio. Kalinsk is an Arstotzkan guard who makes a deal with you. For every 2 people you detain, he will give you 5 credits. It's a pretty good deal, if you ask me, because unlike the guards, the inspector doesn't get anything for detaining people, and this man voluntarily offers to share his bonus with you. On day 17 you will meet Sergio, another Arstotzkan guard from the inspector's hometown. He's a nice guy, but not very good at his job. I mean, for someone who's supposed to be guarding the border, his accuracy is just awful. If during one of the attacks on the checkpoint you don't help him, he will end up getting blown to bits by some random terrorist. I still don't understand why I got so attached to him, but I restarted the day like 3 times just to save his ass. And I would do it again, because at least one person in this game deserves a happy ending. Remember when I told you that I can't let my children starve? Well, that wasn't exactly true. In fact, regular starving has become a common practice in our family, because it's the best way to save money. What else did you expect from a communist country? We can't even afford to heat our home every day. Rent prices and food are so expensive that you are basically working your life away to support your family. Each working day is 8 minutes of pure stress and concentration. Denied entry to someone but forgot to stamp the reason? Great, you just earned yourself a citation. The rules change almost every day and you have to keep more and more information in your head. For example, just yesterday Impor banned all imported goods from Arstotzka, and Arstotzka returned the favor by denying entry to every single Emporian citizen. So now, as an immigration inspector, I have to make sure that no one from Impor gets into our beautiful country. Oh, it looks like they changed their minds. There will be plenty of situations like this, but as long as you've got the basics covered, you're gonna be just fine. The only advice I can give you is use your eyes. It's much faster than selecting 2 things in the documents and comparing them. Remember, time is money. The more people you check, the more money you get. On top of that, if you work carefully and don't make mistakes, you can exploit the system and take bribes. I've already mentioned that you can receive up to 2 citations per day without any consequences, so why not make use of them and earn some extra cash? Consider this a reward for your vigilance. At some point you can even ignore citations when you have 400 credits in your account. But why would anyone even need that much money? The answer is very simple: apartments. Besides getting the worker's best achievement, there is absolutely no reason to move to a better apartment. Class 5 is the best a worker can have, and basically it's just a typical Khrushchevka. If you think that looks bad, try to imagine your initial Class 8 apartment. It's a literal garbage bin, like Charlie Bucket's house in the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, except with darker lighting, no dancing grandpas, and no hope. Unironically, the first border control simulator I ever played wasn't Papers, Please, but its ripoff, and for an oversimplified parody made for Gooners, where you only need to click one button, it did a pretty good job. So when I finally got to the original, I thought, hell, there's no way a game like this doesn't have any keybinds. How do they expect us to work faster when we have to manually click on everything? Turns out I was right, there are keybinds, but you have to pay for them. And no, I don't mean with real money. They are called booth upgrades. Throughout the game you can gradually unlock a total of 4 of these upgrades, starting with essential things like toggling inspect mode with the spacebar and ending with quick inspect by double clicking. The first 3 are great, but the last one is utterly worthless and makes the gameplay worse. Now let's talk about one of the main themes in this game: morality. Papers, Please is a game where actions do have consequences. At first I didn't even pay attention to this and simply focused on doing my job. One day a man comes through without trouble and mentions that his wife is right behind him. Her paperwork is incomplete, so naturally I deny her entry. But then a woman comes through, claiming that the man behind her is selling her into sexual slavery and begging me not to let him through. If we take the woman at her word, he is a criminal, but as far as immigration is concerned, he is free to pass. So you let him go, and the next morning the first thing you see in the newspaper is the news of that girl's death. Of course, most people might not even notice it, but the newspaper is very important. It's not just about domestic and international news. Some headlines actually changed to reflect the actions he made earlier. This raises a question: does blindly following the rules makes you a bad person. After all, you're just doing your job by securing the border. It's very easy to end up in a situation where someone you let through out of pity turns out to be a terrorist or a drug dealer. We are not living in a fairy tale where the world is divided into black and white. This is a communist dystopia. You are no one, just an easily replaceable, underpaid worker. So you either do your job or someone else takes your place. Do you really need to risk your work and help some random people? The answer is no, but it's the right thing to do, isn't it? I helped these people, collected all the tokens, and all I can tell you is this: if you work quickly and efficiently, go ahead and help them. But if you struggle with inspections, it's better to ignore them and help them in your next playthrough, when you have more experience. Despite its apparent simplicity at first glance, the game has a total of 20 endings and lasts for 31 days. During this time, you must decide whose side you are on. Will you be a proud citizen of Arstotzka, dutifully doing your job, or will you follow a group of madmen trying to overthrow the government? Spoiler: everyone who joins the revolution sooner or later realizes their mistake. You are not a hero, you're just a small pebble in a giant bureaucratic regime that will crush you the moment you step out of line. Do you really think you can change the system? With whom exactly? Some mysterious organization that's nothing more than a bunch of amateurs who can't do anything because the new inspector refuses to cooperate? The order doesn't care about you, and you have no reason to risk your life and the lives of your family to help them. That said, there are some benefits. If you ignore the two absolutely ridiculous gifts of 1000 and 2000 credits that can ruin your entire life, they pay you 20 credits for each completed task. It's not much for putting your neck on the line, but hey, $20 is $20. I must admit that I'm a little disappointed, because I keep getting more and more invites to the strip club, which the game doesn't let me visit. So what's the point of it? Aside from that, Papers, Please is really good. It's amazing how a small indie game made in 2013 evokes more emotions in me than 90% of the games these days. It's certainly not the best choice if you want to chill after a long day's work, and its simple graphics and monotonous gameplay might turn off many players, but all of that is outweighed by its atmosphere. Lucas Pope really managed to capture the realities of life in a communist dystopia, where you have to work like crazy or compromise your principles and take bribes just to make ends meet. Of course, there are funny moments during work, and characters like Georgie really lighten the mood, but that doesn't change the fact that you are living in a shithole. Sorry, I mean the greatest country in the world. Glory to Arstotzka, my friends. I'm saying this as a proud citizen sitting in Cobrastan with my whole family. It's easy to love your motherland when you have already escaped from it. And finally, important news. I have created a Patreon account, so anyone willing to support my schizophrenia is welcome. I may disappear for a while because I need to earn money, and YouTube isn't helping. But remember, I will always come back to this shitty platform, in hope that someday it will finally start recommending my videos.